Okay, we are back.
Let's see. Matt, if you're having trouble getting on, just send a comment below, and I'll bring you on that way. If you're watching it, make a comment, and I can bring you in that way.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I can hear you now. Oh, my God.
I hear you, man. Don't you love technology sometimes?
I don't know why it's so difficult. Every time I do it, man, everybody has a problem with getting on it.
It's technology, brother. You know what I mean? Like, it's just never ending. It's
Yeah.
something.
I got this new software that's supposed to like stream across YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and that's what we were trying first, but it wasn't working. So, but it's all good, man. So, what's up, dude? How you been?
I've been good, man. How about yourself? I'm sure you're glad it's a little above Arctic temperatures, anyways. Working outside like you do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean it's freezing, dude. Right now, we wish we were doing firewood. You know, we stopped doing firewood a long time ago, but people doing firewood are doing really good right now.
That's for sure, man. That's for
Yeah.
sure. So.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you, dude, and your personal training and everything.
All right, so what you cut out just
Okay.
of course when you were.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your personal training and everything you got going on with your fitness.
So I've always been an entrepreneur. So I've been in business since I've been in my early 20s. So I'm 40 now. So most people don't realize I'm kind of an old, getting on up there. But I've been in real estate. I've owned a gym locally here in North Georgia in Dahlonega for 10 years. Been a personal trainer, and so I've kind of always been in the space because when I graduated high school, I was a fat kid. Like I was 400 plus pounds.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures, dude. You made such a transformation, dude.
And it's like I lost weight when I was in my early 20s, like 21, 22, and now I'm 40. So it's like I've been fit as long as I've been fat. And so it's not just like that I've lost it, but I've lost it and kept it off for a couple decades. Which, you know what I mean? You always see people, and you're never going to be the same weight all the time,
right?
No matter what. So it's kind of a testament of like the long-term approach. And I learned a lot when I was bodybuilding, like me ever, just because of like mindset. That's how I got my discipline, because I was going to be standing on stage in my Speedos. You know what that's like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When you're posing trunks, and most of us behind closed doors really don't feel confident in our bodies.
Yep.
Even bodybuilders, figure competitors, bikini competitors are the most self-conscious people you'll ever be around. And so for me, it was like, I've always felt like the fat kid. You know what I mean? No matter what, everyone's like, "Oh, dude, you look great." I'm like,
Right.
"What are you talking about?" And because we're always in this process of comparing ourselves. And so I was lucky. My bodybuilding coach was Matt Jansen, and so Matt's coached Olympians now. You know,
Yeah.
Sean Cleara and Nick Walker and all those guys. You know, that are top tier level IFBB guys. And you know, Matt's from Gainesville. I don't know if you know
Really?
that.
No, I didn't. No.
Him and his wife are from Gainesville. So I knew him a long time ago. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I developed that relationship and friendship. And he was always under the mindset, you know, that dude could train really hard. Like, Matt wasn't ever the biggest guy, but he trained ridiculously hard. And so that kind of bridged some gaps for me when it came to training, but also the mindset behind things. It's like, dude, you were a size, 64-inch waist at one point. You know, you're literally half the human being that you were
Yeah.
whenever you were competing.
Yeah.
You know, because I think I was a heavyweight. I didn't cut down. I was right at kind of the light end of the heavyweights. I was 208 or 209 on stage. You know, I could have probably sucked down to 198 and a quarter, but it'd have been a struggle. I was in prep for almost 6 months. So it was a long, strenuous prep because I had so much fat to lose. I had skin surgery, so there was a lot of stuff building up in there. So anyways, that's a little bit about my story. But like for me, I became a dad. I became a husband. I had some failed relationships. I had, certain things where I kind of had to like reevaluate myself as a man. And like that's kind of where my personal training stuff like is now. Is it's not necessarily just physical, but it's mentality. Like nobody taught me how to be a man. My dad wasn't around. Like he wasn't in the picture. I was raised by my mom, my grandmother, my grandfather worked all the time, and my sister. And so I was raised by a bunch of women trying to tell me what a good man should be. When it's interesting because, everybody talks about toxic masculinity, but masculinity is not toxic. Masculinity is like super important and like it's the most caring and nurturing, compassionate thing you can be for your woman and your wife. And like I want to be that man for my daughter. I want her to compare every dude she's with to her daddy. Be like, and that's the important thing for me with all this is understanding the mindset that we have to learn how to stand in our own feet as men and say, these are the standards and the values that I stand on myself, and I'm going to lead from the front. And what's the first thing that we can control? Like what we put in our mouth and what we do with our bodies.
Absolutely.
And that thought process that comes in, like one of the most intelligent things I ever heard somebody say was, you don't have to believe everything you tell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good.
We're terrible at it. You know what I mean? Like we as men, and I'm sure with you, your story, there were times where you're like, I'm just a failure. I just suck. Never going to get out of the bad habits. I'm never going to be able to do this and all that good stuff. And so saying all that, I lost the weight. I was a poor white fat kid growing up. So I kind of had the chips, quote unquote, sagged against me. But I used all that stuff for my advantage now. I don't think of it as a handicap. It was just understanding the way the world works for some people and having that perspective versus how it could work if you just change some things. You know what I mean?
Right.
People look at me different in business because of how I look. You cannot take away the hard work it takes to build a good physique. People can say, oh, PEDs, this and whatever there. Bro, you cannot take away the amount of hard work, dedication, discipline it takes to build a good physique.
Absolutely.
And people relate that in business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
If I were interviewing somebody or someone was interviewing me versus someone that was overweight, whether they say it or not, there's an instant amount of judginess there that goes that their work capacity is lower than this guy. And it's just the hard facts, and nobody likes to talk about that and be like, oh, that's BS listen, not fair. But let me say something, the world ain't fair, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the thing is we have to play by the rules that we're given. And I think
Yep.
that's one of the things I had to accept and understand. But so that's kind of how I got into the space. For me, like, I'm in real estate, I do real estate investing, but my passion is to help men.
Yeah.
So, like, help men like look good and naked in the mirror when they get out of the shower, and be like, man, how can my wife say no? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like
That's awesome. How many guys are you training right now?
there's probably, because we're adding people, I try to keep it kind of calm down. There's only so many spots available. My one-on-one training, there's not much availability. There may be 1 or 2 spots left, and that's over 30 guys. I'm prepping a guy for a show in August, but there's around 30. It's kind of where I'm capped out for my personal training. I do have
Gotcha.
some group training though too, so it's like $30 a month, and you get my training, set up your macros, and you're part of like the group coaching calls, just kind of like this, where guys can ask questions. We break problems down, and we kind of go really into the mental aspect of like how we approach life. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had a group call where someone's wife left them, or the girl dumped them, or whatever it may be, and it's like the best way to get over stuff like that is to not point the finger and blame and say, you know, they suck or they cheated on me or whatever, because bad stuff happens, and you can't control what other people do,
Right.
no matter what.
Yep.
So we can only control the things that are in our power, and we can control what we do. And if we take all that and we use it as fuel to get better, then our progress doesn't stop. And then they're going to look back in a couple of years and be like, damn, I missed that. I screwed that one up. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of funny because men deal more with relationship issues than women ever could. And it's like it comes out in these small groups of men just kind of talking about, like, I've been in a sexless marriage for 5 years. Well, the first thing you do is well, no, trust me. The first thing you do is you work on you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, but because you can't control the biggest thing that I try to explain and make most people realize is there's so much that's out of our control. What people think of us, what our reputation is, who's talking trash, you know, whether somebody loves us or doesn't, but it all comes here. Like, we have to be able to handle whatever comes our way and respond.
Right.
And not respond emotionally, but logically.
Right.
And all of us put our feelings. How many times, if you look back at your life and you made a decision out of your emotions versus out of your logic, and it led to a whole path of BS. You know what I mean? You're like, damn, dude, if I could just go back, you know?
Oh yeah, so, I'm extremely hot-headed, so I know. Yeah.
Trust me, me too. So it's just like, man, and we're all guilty of it. And it's one of those things, like, we have to, you know, it's no different than anybody that's an addict to things. Like, we get addicted to our certain reactions of emotions. Like, for me, my thing was women, because I was a fat kid. I never got attention from the females. And then when I became a bodybuilder, and I became successful in business,
right,
bro, they were talking to me like you had technique on you. You know what I mean? And it was like, you understand. All right, you gotta. The attention's cool and all, but it's not fulfilling. You know what I mean? Like, and it got to the point to where I had to step back and be like, okay, I don't want to be this guy. You know, I don't want my son. My oldest son is 12. He watches everything I do. I didn't want him to live that life. I didn't want him to make the same mistakes I was making. So it's kind of one of those, I had to reevaluate my life and start to control that impulse of receiving that validation that I never got. Because not only did I not have my dad in my life, but I kind of had a mom one too, because I was always wanting to make sure she was fine, she was okay, because she was a single mom and she was taking care of us. And so a lot of boys that grow up in a single mom household have that mom wound, because it's their job as the only man to make sure that their mom is okay. So what do we do as men? We spoil, we drop everything, we do everything that a woman asks us to, even though there's no boundaries set in the relationship.
Right.
You know, we become yes men.
Yep.
And when you become a yes man, they don't respect you. And love is respect to a man. You have to respect me in order to love me. And so if they don't respect you, they can't love you. And so it's impossible. So understanding and explaining some of that, a lot of these realizations. I know that's like deep. We jumped.
No, you're good, bro. No, I like it. I learn something new every time I do one of these. I'm listening.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like it's important because our generation, I'm not sure, how old are you?
36.
So
I'm right behind you.
You're not far behind me.
Yeah.
So you understand our generation, there's a lot of dudes that didn't grow up with dads.
Yeah.
And then say, hey man, it's okay to let them walk. You know, it's okay to say this is what I stand on, and I understand how you feel, and I will care, but I can't take you into a relationship and give all of me if this is what your behavior is going to be.
Right.
Most men can't do that in a relationship. They can't, and they won't, because they feel like they're devalued so much along the way in their life that whoever they marry, whoever their girlfriend is the best they're going to get. And as a man, you have to flip the script. You have to be so damn good that your wife, your girlfriend, whoever, has to be able to look at you and be like, I can't do any better. I am not going to screw this up. He's the protector. He's the provider. It makes me feel safe. He meets all my physical, emotional, everything needs. When you start putting all those into yourself, that's when you kind of become an unpenetrable force as a man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
When you really have your life together. And it's hard. Like, it's not easy. We all stumble.
Yeah.
We all have the insecurities.
Yep.
You know, my wife will tell you, like, there's days where, especially as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you can understand this, like, you feel the weight of the world pressing down on you. You know, standing on your shoulders because you have everybody counting on you. You know, you've got employees, you've got the tax man, you've got yourself, your family, and everyone. And it's tough.
Yep.
So I understand from that perspective how hard it is. And I understand that confidence really, when people ask me, like, how do I become confident? It's keeping the small promises to yourself. That's really it, over and over and over again.
Yep.
You know, it's like, all right, I'm going to set an alarm for 6 a.m. and I'm going to make breakfast. You know, it's going to be a good, nutritious breakfast, whatever it may be.
And doing it over and over and over.
And then you start, when you say, hey, I'm going to do this,
Yep.
you start to feel like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that confidence comes in there. And you have to get out of your comfort zone. I've probably done more out of my comfort zone in the past 18, 24 months than I ever have.
Great.
But I know in order for me to grow, I can't just like hang out here.
Yep.
Even though like where I'm hanging out, most people would kill to be, but I had to do some pretty drastic stuff. And it's scary. But it's like, I can't, it's not going to kill me. It's going to be scary and it's going to suck. But it's not going to kill me.
Yeah.
As long as I don't quit, I can't lose.
Yep.
That's
right.
The skills that we're learning, we can reapply. You know,
yep.
And that's my entrepreneurial spiel. So,
well, you brought it up. You brought it up. What's your view on PEDs and TRT and everything?
Dude, I've been on TRT since I was 27.
Yeah.
So I was a fat kid, like I said. So me carrying that much adipose tissue, this is why I'm such a huge advocate. And it's not necessarily for super physiological gains, but as much as it is about being efficient in your body's function. Because if you're low on testosterone, guess what? Your heart function and your kidney function they're already in risk of being compromised. There are more detriments from low T than there is for actually high T.
Right.
So for me, get your blood work done. I've been around people that have done PEDs, and like I said, at the end of the day, I've seen women and men do them, some with great success, because it's not just a blast and go.
Right.
But there's a strategy to it. And you got to do it safe.
Yes.
You got to protect your liver, your kidneys, and your heart. There's certain things like, you got to do, your own, blood giving here and there just to keep your, hematocrit and hemoglobin levels down so your blood doesn't get thick. There's certain things that you can do, even if you're using PEDs. But here, dude, how many people do you see right now using Ozempic, semaglutide, trazepam? Those that are, guess what? That's a PED, bro.
Yeah, with no research, with no long-term research done behind it, dude.
No,
Like, it works. It works, but these people are going to be, like, I'm not saying they're going to, but, like, there's no long-term research done on it, with somebody without having a problem,
And it's one of those things, too, like, you talk about testosterone or even like Anavar, something like that, or some of the peptides, and people are like, oh my God, you're, the most terrible human on the planet. They'll literally go and get a prescription for Ozempic. And I'm like, well, I understand it, but that's a diabetic drug. And you don't have diabetes. So, I mean, like, there's certain things where it's kind of hypocritical, but I understand it. And anything that can help someone kind of get started, but they have to understand, like, long-term success is about your habits. It's not about something you put in your system. For me, if I were to come off, TRT, my wife would hate everybody that made me come off TRT, because guess what? My wiener ain't working. You know what I mean? That is not going to be a good deal.
Yep.
And so for long-term health, and it's not just that, but like I get blood work done every 3 months.
Yep.
To stay on top of it, to make sure that there's no crazy markers or anything like that. But I mean, for me, I think it's not the government's job to tell me what I can and can't do. It's up to me to be responsible or not. If you're going to say that testosterone's bad, but you sell booze on every corner in America, it's the most hypocritical thing on the planet. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
That's just me. So that's my opinion of it, but I just think people need to be responsible for what they put in their bodies. That's it.
Yeah, I agree 100%, dude. I'm sure when you were doing your shows, you had to get involved with some of that a little bit heavier as well. So I know when I did my show, I had to take a few extra things, but I had somebody watching me the whole time, and we did it the safe way. Like you said, I gave blood every 3 months, and I actually need to go give blood now. But now I'm so worried about giving blood because, like, I just don't trust the government. I don't know what, like, I just think about crazy stuff like that. Yeah. So I know I need to give blood, but I don't want them putting anything in me. I don't know what's in it, like, so, but I'm all for it, man. I think, dude, I mean, women, they take birth control, I'm with it, dude. I see nothing wrong with it if you're using it in a correct way. And that's the thing, is just using it the right way.
It's funny, everybody talks about my body, my choice. But when you want to talk about, growing actual muscle tissue that's actually going to help you when you're an older man that can continue to provide for the government with your tax dollars, everybody acts like you're the devil.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting hypocrisy at its finest, for sure.
Yeah, it's like almost like they just want us to be more feminized, with the food that we eat, like you were saying, with the stuff we put in our bodies. They know that it makes us, not as much men. We have to have that test to bring us back up because, the crap we eat is horrible.
If men, the thing is men now have half the testosterone of men did in the 40s and 30s.
Yep.
Which is crazy because, they don't want the greatest generation being raised again, too. The guys that were in World War II.
Right.
They don't want those guys.
Yep.
Because if our generation does that, it's going to be bad for everybody because we become less agreeable the more masculine we get. That's the problem with it is they want agreeability. Like, just go with the flow, be a good sheep, don't say anything.
Yeah.
And then, we'll be good. So,
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're not afraid to talk about it, dude.
No, man. It is what it is. It's a part of life. It's a part of bodybuilding. And anybody that doesn't talk about it, it says, oh, like some of those guys like Liver King and all that stuff. It's like,
oh my God.
Anybody that's been around anybody understands what's real and what isn't. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah, that was something with Liver King. Do you follow Kenny KO?
I don't.
Okay. He just walks up to everybody who's like a bodybuilder and asks them if they're natty or not. And, 9 times out of 10, if they're with like some brand or something, you look at them and you could tell they're on something, but they say they're natural. And he just calls them out. It's hilarious.
That's funny.
Yeah, yeah. So I was checking out your Facebook, dude. I was looking at all your videos of you locking your wife out of your car. That was so funny, man. Had me dying laughing.
My wife is the best sport on the planet. And we did that when we were dating, too. We're rolling up on our 2-year anniversary of being married. We've been together almost 3 years. And she's the best, dude. And so, I've went through a couple marriages. I'm still best friends with my first wife, my son. My second wife, who we'll get into, my crash, because I think that's one of the things you want to talk about.
Yeah.
She lives in Colorado. We got married twice, actually. It was just kind of So, it's just, so it's like, I was definitely not doing it anymore. I told my wife when we first started talking, I was like, I'm never getting married again, period. Just know it. And she was like, yeah, me neither. Because she came off a 14-year marriage and other things like that. So, but her and I both have really done some growing, not just as individuals, but as a couple. We've been through some stuff.
Right.
And it's like when you do that with your spouse, for someone that could easily just turncoat and just leave, but when they decide to stand there with you at the bottom, bro, that's so hard to find. And I'm so thankful. She's literally the best thing that's ever happened to me. My ex, I told you, me and my first wife, we're still best friends. And my in-laws, like her family, are like my family. We've been that way since we're just great friends. And so we've co-parented our son the best. He's just phenomenal. He's pretty badass on a motorcycle too. So he's 12 years old, man. And he can, but he's a great athlete. He's a good student. But even we went to visit my ex-mother-in-law, and she told Erica, she's like, you're the best thing that's ever happened to Matt. You saved him. And my ex-father-in-law passed away recently, and we were up there with her. And she's like,
sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, but she was like, you saved him. She's like, he needed you.
Yeah.
And I did, and I'll admit that. Because she changed my perspective on things. Because I was a pretty bitter, angry person. That's that mindset, I went through a whole lot through my crash. My year 2020 and 2020. We'll get into that whenever you want to. But
yeah, I'm ready. I want to hear about that, dude, because I don't even know how you're alive, really.
Bro, it's crazy. And so I race motorcycles. I've been doing it since 2008, and I road race. So I raced a 600. I raced it professionally in AMA. Did a couple rounds. Professionally, I wasn't good. I was towards the back because those kids weigh like $115 anyways, and so the guy gets it's 225,
right,
or 230. It's just it's a weight ratio thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But on a 600 for sure. So, anyways, I raced, had a couple gnarly crashes. Then didn't scare me or nothing. Then Champ was born, and I kind of took a little time off. And then my daughter was born. I went through a divorce, and then with Champ's mom, and then I got remarried and had my daughter. And then during that time, my wife, she left, moved to Nebraska. A year later, decided to come back. We got remarried again. So, and then she wanted another kid. So I had my
Wow.
son Hayden. And at this time, Hayden was born April 15th, 2020. So he's a tax baby. Never forget my taxes, that's for sure. So the day before he was born, I changed my life insurance policy to a very, very significant number. Okay, so just kind of keep that in your head. Because some of this is rumor, so I don't know if it's like pure factual. Because you got to remember, you'll understand I was in a coma a lot of this.
Yeah.
But after Hayden was born, there was a lot of stress. I think postpartum is tough for a woman. Like, I get it. It totally is. But I feel like my ex just kind of ran. She did the first time after my daughter was born. And same thing with my son, which was my big fear. But she was in Colorado. And so I was at home. 2019 was the best year in real estate I'd ever had at that point. It was gangbusters. Killed it. Was making tons of money. And so I was like, I'm just going to go racing this weekend. This was May 16th, 2020. So a month and a day after my son was born. And me, my best friend at the time, another really good friend of mine, actually flew down to Savannah. And we were going to go race. I was going to win. We were going to go on River Street and celebrate. You know, it was going to be a damn good time. And went out, practiced. Things were good. And graded up for the race. I knew that there was one guy that was kind of similar-ish to my lap times, but I probably gapped him by at least a second. So I knew, I could win the race easily. So the way they did it is there was 4 races within one actual race. There was 4 classes. Ours was at the very back. I was like, damn. So the green flag drops, and all I'm thinking is I got to get as many people between me and Corey as possible. That's all I was thinking. So I was like, get out of the way. And the track is Roebling Road, so it's a really fast racetrack. It's not very technical, but on a 1,000, coming into turn 1, you're probably at 185 mile an hour on a super bike.
Wow.
So I mean, you're hauling the nail. So coming onto the front straightaway that you can't even see the end of, I'm coming out on my super bike at 120, something like that. My knee on the ground, clicking.
Oh my God.
And so it's some serious speed. So the green flag drops, and I'm just passing people. I'm just like, get out of my way, get out of my way. You know, so I was kind of anxious. Right before, maybe 30 minutes before my race, me and my wife at the time were on the phone, and it wasn't like the best phone call. It was kind of a heated exchange because I was like, here's my expectations. His was hers, and it wasn't a good thing. So I don't know if that was in the back of my head or not. You know, I don't know. But I probably shouldn't have had that conversation right before jumping on a super bike and going almost 200 mile an hour.
Yeah.
So anyways, I don't think that was an issue, but I just wanted to win and go drink with my buddies. That's all I could really think about, and just kind of give the middle finger to the day, be like, ha, and do my thing. So I'm like, it was an 8-lap race. I think I crashed on lap 5 or 6. I had a 4 or 5 second plus lead. I shouldn't have been anxious of passing people, but I was kind of setting up to pass somebody up the inside on the next turn, but it's a fast left-hander. So, I mean, we're talking probably at the fastest point of this turn, you're 120, 130 mile an hour. And so as I tilted the front end on a super bike, it'll slide, it'll tuck. And so I think I don't know exactly, but before they repaved it, there was ripples from where, because there are cars race on this track too. So you got to think about inertia and gravity pulling cars. The closer to the outside, there's going to be more ripples because you're actually pushing the pavement. over time. You know what I mean? So I think I hit some of the ripples because I was turning in kind of late. And I tucked the front and I saved it, but I saved it just as I was about to go off the track. Had a handful of brakes, and it was 100+ mile an hour crash. And so it was pretty gnarly. There's I think I pieced, because there was a photographer there, and he pieced the crash together. So there's a GIF of it, and it's
wow.
And so I crashed. I don't remember crashing. I don't remember really being in the hospital, but I broke my C6 and C7 in my neck. I dislocated my shoulder. I broke like 3 or 4 ribs. I broke my leg, and I had a brain injury and like 5 or 6 brain bleeds. And so they didn't know if I was going to live.
Yeah.
So it was really touch and go. Luckily, someone called my sister. This was in Savannah. So my sister lives just north of Jacksonville, so she shot up. Because remember, my wife's in Colorado. So there's really nobody to get in on much family. So she gets there, trying to figure everything out. It's May 2020, in the middle of COVID. So it ends up being like one person that can come in my room or my ICU unit, and that's it. Like, so only one person can come like the entire stay that I'm at the hospital. Not my son, not my ex-wife who drove down, nobody. And so it was my sister, and my sister gave my ex the ability to come and be that person. My business partner at the time was going to fly a private jet out there to pick her up, give her a nanny for the kids. Literally everything was taken care of, like everything. She said no. So I didn't know this at the time, but she said no, and so it was my sister, and my sister was there the entire time. Thank God. She's an RN. She's a nurse too. So
wow.
And she's a nerd, man. Like, when, especially anybody that's hurt around her, like, she does all the research that she possibly can, just to kind of, she wants to be well educated. And so my injuries were really scary. Like, I know people that have been paralyzed, racing.
Yeah.
One of my buddies, Steve, he crashed in Miami at Homestead, and he's paralyzed. And so I always call him spaghetti legs, and he always, calls me meathead, and he's just awesome. He's just one of the best people ever.
Yeah.
But even he messaged me, he's like, dude, I thought you were going to join me if you made it out alive. But I took a helicopter life flight that cost $80,000 to get me to the hospital to save my life. My sister was there, and so I had a fever, I had a broken leg, my ribs, I'd bitten a hole in my tongue, my lungs were bruised. There was just, I was jacked up. But the biggest thing for them was the broken neck and the brain injury, because they didn't really know what my brain functioning was. They put me on a vent because I was so messed up, and I was in a coma for, I think, 5 or 6 days.
Wow.
And so they took me out of the coma, or get me off the vent, and I start ripping stuff. Champ always, he said, dude, you're a Hulk. It was with my sisters, and I was just ripping stuff out. And luckily, I came off the vent. They had me on a bunch of goofy meds, like Seroquel is what they give, like schizophrenic patients and stuff. And some was not in the right line for a long time. My sister said just my ex's voice, my heart rate would go up, my blood pressure would go up. But
my goodness.
And this is when I was in my coma, and the voice of my kids on the phone would bring all that stuff down. It's so weird, you know what I mean? Like, subconsciously what's going on, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm not a doctor, but it's pretty crazy to think about.
Right.
How body responds to certain stresses and stuff.
Yeah.
But I walked out of the hospital 10 days later. 10 days after my crash, I walked out. It might have been 9 days. It's kind of blurry, but it was like 9 or 10 days. I walked out of the hospital. And so there was a lot of rumor around that time as to why she wasn't there. My ex, and I didn't know. Like, I was loopy.
Yeah.
But I went to my sister's for a few days. She took care of me to make sure. As I was coming to, like, business was running, and I was like, I got to get home to my businesses. I got to make sure things are going and rolling. Like, I can't just be sitting here because I was getting anxious. I'm sure you probably know how that is as a business owner. To sit still and sit idle, you're either moving forward or moving backwards. And I didn't like that feeling. So as I got to that point, my sister was getting pissed off. Let's be frank about it. I was playing with my C-collar, like the Velcro on it, and she's like, literally, my vertebrae were cracked down the middle. And so one shift, I could have been paralyzed. And I was just being a ding dong, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it got to the point to where she took me home. I have if you ever see me working out too, like my shoulder from being inside my leathers, there was a pad there. I hit so hard, like it pushed the skin off of my shoulder to the muscle. And so, like, there's some pretty gnarly scars. I had like this big wound here. And my sister was worried about taking me home because nobody would take care of the wound. Luckily, I had some friends back home that would help me change like the bandages and stuff. But my sister brings me home a few days after, I think maybe a week or so. I walk in the door, limp in the door because I got a boot on. I'm in my C-collar. My ex-wife is in the house, and she's like, the divorce papers are right there.
Oh my God.
And so I'm so angry. Like, I didn't even have a heads up. That I was just like, and so when I did that, gave her permission to take my kids back to Colorado. And it was just one of those, like, that's why my kids are out there. But at the end of the day, I go out and see my kids usually once a month. It's expensive. But luckily I have the means to do that. It's hard because I have a son here too. You know what I mean?
Right,
So,
right.
It was a very difficult time. I was very bitter about the whole situation. So I just felt like, and there's so much to that story, bro. Like, it's hard as a man to feel like the most ultimate defeat and betrayal. And it doesn't stop there. Because I had women in my life that could smell blood in the water, and they tried to swoop in and take care of me. But it was a distraction to get assets and to money and to things that I would buy them because I was so jacked up. Like, and I had just been rejected.
Yeah.
To the ultimate, like, 10th degree. Like, think about this. It's like you're laying on your deathbed. You don't know whether you're going to make it or not. And the one person that vowed for sickness and health, rich or poor, isn't even there, dude.
That's insane, man. That is absolutely horrible.
Yeah. And so I was, and that was, like I said, that's just like the first piece. The second piece, my best friend at the time was a business partner, was stealing money. As I got back, I was in a coma, dude. Like, and we didn't find this out till after the fact. Like, this is something kind of transpiring still now. So I can't talk a whole lot about it, but there was $30-something thousand taken out of our company account. We don't even know where it is.
What?
The day he was there, he was at my crash. He drove my truck and trailer home. I crashed on Saturday. He drove home on Sunday. On Monday, he went to the bank. That's messed up.
Dude.
And the betrayal from, like, a best friend,
right,
as well as a business partner, it's just hard to digest. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's a lot of stuff that happened at one time, man.
That ain't even at all, dude. That's not at all. I crashed in May. In June, my mom dies. 2 months later, my dad dies. So, like, literally, I have this crazy amount of extreme loss and betrayal at one time. My kids, both my parents, business partners, women that I was dating, thinking that they were, you know, in my corner just to get money and things. It was the most messed up. Like, that's the kind of stuff that drives men to do really radical things to end a temp pain in a permanent way, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes one or two ways. You either go very good from there or you just stop.
Yep. And it was hard, man. And there was many days where I was like, why am I doing this? Why? Why do I continue on? And then, you know what? Like, every day when I talk to my kids and FaceTime my kids, and I talk to Champ, he's like, hey, Daddy, what you doing? And now he's a little man. He's going through puberty. I'm like, it's so crazy, you know, but that. And then I think about Erica. Dude, if I would have let all that defeat me, I'd have never met the best thing that ever happened to me. And don't get me wrong, Jill, my ex-wife, my Champ's mom, she was there too. She drove straight down to Savannah. Like, she was my ex-wife. She wasn't even my wife. You know what I mean? Like, and that shows like how much I care. And part of me will always love her. She will always be a part of my life. We have Champ, co-parent, and I appreciate that. And so most people would probably kill to have the co-parenting relationship that we have. And it ain't always been easy. She drives me nutty sometimes, but I'm sure I drive her nutty too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that I think we all battle that nobody knows what's going on. Because if you look back at my social media, you can see me being a little bitter, a little angry, but nobody knew how defeated I was as a man, as a father, as everything, you know. And so there was always those points that we all get to at certain times, like, why am I doing this? But it made me realize, like, nobody likes change. But guess what? If it's raining and pouring down, think about like this week. We're supposed to get like 4 to 8 inches of rain. I tell you what, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be cold. Yeah. It's gonna be rainy. It is gonna suck. But guess what? The sun's gonna come out, dude.
Yep.
And we just have to be able to remember, like, as low as it may feel at this moment, nothing lasts forever. And so I've read a lot of stuff on stoicism, and how I felt. Feeling all those feelings is normal. But how we react, how we choose to react to those is up to us. And so, you know, I could have easily done something stupid that would not have just impacted me, but everybody around me, including my legacy. And I don't want that. And I'm so glad I had the clarity of thought of thinking, I'm going to look forward to just talking to my kids every day. I'm going to look forward to going to the gym every day. It was my outlet. So, like, little things like that, if you can find the joys, because I think we all try to, like, I just want to be happy. Bro, happiness, you know how many times you're happy and sad in a day?
Yeah.
Like, it comes and goes, man. Like, we can be cracking up and cutting jokes.
Yep.
And then a piece of equipment break that's going to cost us $10 grand to fix. And guess what? We ain't happy no more.
Yep.
We may get a job that we quoted come in. That's going to make us feel better because it's going to start putting a dent towards it. Whatever it is, like, it's the ebbs and flow of life, and I think people just have to learn to accept it. And I'm going to die. I think one of the things that Champ was like 8 when I crashed, 8 or 9, and yeah, he was 9. And his ability to understand how finite life is and how short it is was, I think, maybe one of the greatest lessons that came out of that whole thing. My younger 2 kids, they have no idea. I've got my leathers in a shadow box hanging in my kitchen that they cut off me, and that my wife did for me. It doesn't mean anything to them because they don't remember it, but my son does. And when he was nervous because he got his race license at Roebling, the same track I crashed at. We haven't been back and rode there since I crashed, and we did this in December. And he's like, I'm nervous. He said, but if I go out, Dad, I'm going out the way I want to, doing what I love.
Yeah.
Bro, what do you say to that? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, well, you got a lot of life to live, but that's
Right.
a selfish request for me, you know, like that's
Right.
a selfish request for me. And
Yeah.
I feel like you have to teach your kids to do dangerous things in order to live. Because guess what? Getting on the road and driving, that's just as dangerous as getting on a racetrack. It's a controlled environment and going fast.
Right.
Because guess
Yeah,
what?
I
Once
was
these
gonna
bikes
ask
up,
you. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. You haven't been on a bike since?
oh yeah, I still ride.
You still
I've
ride?
crashed. Yeah, I've crashed since then. So I've bought a new bike that's even faster than that one. It's the fastest thing. It's a factory super bike. And when I say it's the fastest thing I've ever thrown my leg over, dude, it's scary to me. So like going that road Atlanta, like it's through the kink on the backstretch, like turn 9 and coming in 10A, you're at a buck 90.
Oh my
And
God.
the front's one to slide too. It's like every time pinned, and so it's like your butthole. You couldn't drive a pin through it in it with a jackhammer. Like that's how tight your
Yeah.
butthole do that. It's wild. And so it's wanting to slide and wheelie everywhere. But it's awesome, dude. Like I there is not another thing on this planet that's like I've tried other things, but there's nothing like it. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that I've never been an adrenaline junkie, dude. I never rode a motorcycle when I was a kid. Someone came to my gym one day and was like, "Oh, dude, you should get a bike." I'm like, nah. And then they slowly convinced me, and they convinced me to go to the track. Then they convinced me to race, and then it was over. So
That's crazy.
yeah, and I've talked like
That's
since
crazy.
I've passed the torch on to Champ, like I've talked about, I'm like, you know, I enjoy going more now to just watch him and be like his little pit crew and change tires and do whatever I got to, then ride. But my wife doesn't want me to sell it. She's like, you want to ride? You want because he and I've rode together on the track. And I got to show him what's up just a little bit too, to keep him just a little humble. He's like, hey, your dad's still you know.
Yeah, Daddy can still do it.
Yeah, I might be old, but I still got it, buddy. I know where you got it from, or you better know where you got it
Right,
from. So,
right.
you know,
I think that's awesome, dude. I mean, I hate your crash, but I think that's cool that, you know, you love it and you know what the outcome could be, but you die doing what you love, you know, and it's like we're all going to die at some point. So just.
That's right, you know, and it's weird because me and my wife talk about dying and stuff probably more recently just because of the circumstances of my ex-father-in-law, who was really close to. Like, what I would want. She's like, what would you want me to do, like, if something bad happened to you? I was like, I want you to still do the things that we enjoy together. Like, go into the track, be there for Champ. She's like, if you die on the bike, I'm not going back. I'm like, why? Like I would want to be there, you know. Like I hope my crash is as spectacular taking me out as it could be. But at the same time, like I know the risks, and I hope you see how much I love it. And I would want you to go and spread the way we've talked about these things. Like I'm gonna be cremated. I want you and all my kids to have some of my ashes and take them to places that we have memories. So a piece of me will always be there. Like that's kind of what I want. And she's like, yeah, I know. She's like, I just don't want to do life without you. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just can't imagine you not being here. I was like, what? You know, be sad when nobody locks your ass out of the car when it's 12 degrees outside. She's like, I won't miss that. I'll miss laughing with you about it. You know. So it's just kind of funny how it puts things in perspective, and even the worst circumstances can be turned into the hugest life lessons for us as long as we can take those things from it. And I think that's the big thing is, yeah, bad stuff happens, but it's not really a loss if you can pull some value from it.
Right.
And that's the thing that I always try to do. Like, even the situation with my ex-business partner, it opened because as me and you, we're probably trying to see the best in people.
Right.
And so we let stuff slide that in hindsight, I probably wouldn't let slide. We put rose-colored glasses on in life because there's red flags in every situation. Whether it's a girl, whether it's a business partner, whether it's a decision that we should or shouldn't make, we just try to turn a blind eye. Some of the things that we just leave for circumstance or, oh, that's a one-off thing. We'll just kind of let it slide. You know, he was going through this or that. We have to take the information and the data that we have and think about what's best for us.
Right.
And that's tough sometimes, you know what I mean? Because
Absolutely.
in turn, it makes us selfish. But at the end of the day, what's the big picture? Is it selfish for me, or is it selfish for my family, for my employees, for my clients? One of my clients is getting screwed from all this too. So it's like, it's not selfish. It's self-preservation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think being able to take those nicks on the chin, because we're all going to get kicked in the face.
Yep.
At some point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in your life do you look back and be like, man, if only I just had a little bit of the foreshadowing that I could see coming my way.
Right, right.
You know? But just like you, dude, like you've taken a lot of the kicks to the chin and became a better man because of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I wouldn't change it. It makes you who you are.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I would, you know, in theory, it'd be nice to have been born to a really rich family that I can jump in my Bugatti, but it's not a Bugatti to me. It's just like
Right.
a Honda Accord. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's what most people don't understand because they don't have the comparison and contrast of what it actually is. You know what I mean?
Dude, I was talking to my grandfather today, and we were talking about that, and I was like, yeah, they just don't understand the value, to whereas if me and you got something like that, it would be completely different. We understand the value of that. But being born into money, you don't have any, what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know. You just don't have any respect for money, pretty much. I mean, you just think it's a given.
Yeah, it's the appreciation of what it takes to earn it. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Like,
Yes.
that is very different, you know? And that's one of the things, like, my kid, I make him cut the grass. I make him do all the stuff around, which I kind of like because I don't even know if you know this, but like when I first went to college, I went for landscape management and turf grass. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like how one of the things I was like intrigued about your business.
Yeah.
Because you know people when they do things well, you know what I mean? You can see it. And I'm like, Cody's got his stuff together. He does a good job. You know?
Well, I'm not going to take all the credit because I have a great business partner, Kevin, who he's awesome, man. You know, and we've made it work for years, and we've grown, and you know, I couldn't do anything without him. You know, it works. We're like brothers, you know, and it's hard to find a good business partner. I know very few companies that have been successful with it. But we have made it work, and we have just always told each other, no matter what, we'll make it work.
And I think that's the thing too is you don't have a plea. You burn the ships, so you're like, we're gonna have to make this work one way or another. It's a very different approach.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so I think that's another aspect too when it comes to fitness, when it comes to relationships. If you're like, especially in relationships, like me and my wife, we don't even mention the D word. Like we don't mention divorce at all. Like we don't play around. We just don't. It's just a talkable subject. So we just don't even joke about it. And so when you burn the ships, when it comes to fitness, and you're like, listen, I've had enough of this BS. I've reached rock bottom. Like, because that's what it was for me. I couldn't fit on a roller coaster. That was what the linchpin point was for me, is I had to do the walk of shame at Six Flags because I couldn't fit on the Dahlonega mine train. Like, That's how bad it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just not going to do it. I remember literally laying there praying at night sometimes, like, God, just let me wake up and be skinny. Now I'm like, when some people tell me their weight and they're like in the 160s and 70s, I'm like, bro, I would be freaking out that I had cancer or I was dying if I was in the 170s. You know what I mean? Because I carry 200 pounds like nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those, like, you just gotta keep things in perspective and know that you can't wish for certain skills and certain abilities. Like, what would you make a person do that you wanted to have the skills and qualities that you do? Like your kids. Like, do you want them to be patient? You want them to have discipline? Like, would you give them things right away if you want them to be patient? No.
Yeah.
Would you, let things slide and not have repercussions if you didn't want discipline for them to actually learn how to do those things? No, you wouldn't. So you put people in situations that are going to force that upon you, because if you ask for an easy life, God's not gonna grant that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if you want to be a very successful whatever, and you ask God for the universe or whatever it is, the things that it's going to take, you're going to be hammered with all the things that you can't even imagine that you're going to have to deal with. Because
Yep.
if you're able to deal with the really hard situations, the hard stuff in business, the hard stuff in relationships, they become easy to you. You know what I mean? And it's not always easy because you're always dealing with emotions and still risk versus reward. But in the grand scheme of things, like, I know it sounds cliche, but are you going to die? Probably not. You know what
Right.
I mean? And so,
Right.
and I've even with my wife, she drives her bananas. She's like, you don't need me. I'm like, no, I don't need you. I want you. And there's a very big distinct difference between me wanting something and me needing something. Like, I don't need her to survive. I want her to survive and thrive with me by my side.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's no different than a woman. Like, she shouldn't need a man. She should want the right man. And that's the key that most people miss. Like,
Yep.
There's not this need. Like, as much as I love my wife, if she were to do something stupid and like cheat on me, guess what? She knows I'll be gone tomorrow. Like, period. And those are the boundaries that we've drawn in our relationship. And I think it's really important that any couple, any relationship have boundaries. Like, we know what the no-fly zone is and we know what it isn't, you know what I mean? So I think it's important to establish those things. But getting back to what you said, like, it's just a perspective thing of knowing what it takes, knowing the things that you want to do and what you need to do. And most of the time we know what we need to do, we just don't do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all know what we need to do. We just don't do it. You said it, dude. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I know what I need to do every single day, and some days I don't do it. It's like you don't need somebody to tell you. You know in your heart what you need to do and what you don't need to do.
Yep. And it's definitely nice sometimes to have some accountability. I think that's what a lot of what my coaching is now is accountability and steering, because I think in the nutrition world, it's very complex because there's so much information out there as to what to do.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly. Not that there's any right or wrong way, but I think what works and what doesn't is what's sustainable. Like, if you can do something for a very long time, guess what? It's probably going to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's not just something, but doing something consistent enough over a long period of time. That's the key. Because, if you go keto or you go whatever, just start slashing macros where you can't really do anything, or you're living on poverty macros, you're going to jack up your metabolism. You're going to, do so many things that are so contradictory to what you're really wanting to do. I think that's where some guidance comes in, some setting a plan and making small adjustments.
Absolutely. Yep.
Accountability too, because bro, ain't nobody want to take progress pictures when you effed up and you're a water buffalo. You know what I mean? I'm sure post show when you you're so bloated and there's so much water retention.
Yep.
It's just like, man.
Yeah.
This is not what I look like on stage. And you will always compare yourself to what you look like the night before your show.
Yep.
You know what
Yep.
I mean, like anything.
I actually think I looked better after the show. Like after I did the show and after I ate, had a good meal in me the next day, I think I looked the best, dude. I thought I looked amazing. But yeah, I loved it, man. That was the funnest, like best thing I ever did. And I'm actually doing another one here in a couple months. So I'm really excited about it, man. It is, you know I'm not the biggest guy out there, and I'll probably never be the biggest guy out there, but it's not about that. It's about just having fun and like discipline. It's like if you like that life, if you like to, do everything the same over and over and over again and get better and better and better, then, bodybuilding is definitely a good sport for sure.
Absolutely. It's one of those things too, like you don't realize, like it carries over so much longer after your show. Like it just, because it becomes habit. It becomes part of your discipline. Like you eat the same stuff. You
Yep.
like the same stuff. You don't feel the same when you eat trash food than when you do when you eat your bodybuilding, your bro food. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel people trip out because I eat chicken and rice and green beans. I've done it for 10 years, man.
Yeah.
It's not even a thing to me.
Yeah, you don't
It's like,
eat for taste. You eat to build. That's, it's like, screw the taste. Like, you just got to eat to build and survive.
yeah. And I mean, I love food more than most people. And so I take advantage of my free meals and stuff. I don't call them cheats. I just call them free meals.
Yeah.
I'm not cheating on anything. It's part of the plan. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can do whatever you want. So I feel like it's weird, like little mental things, because we're not dogs. I feel like sometimes, like some coaches, when they use like a cheat meal, or if you fell off the wagon, like some coaches will punish their athletes and they can do extra cardio stuff. But you're not a dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's about, is that how you want to look on stage? That's the only thing I'll ask. And dude, 90% of the time, like if they're serious about their show, athlete fixes it. And it's never an issue again. But you want to know who's the hardest athletes to coach? It's women. They are
Women?
women.
Really?
Do you know why?
No.
Because they're emotional. Women are the most emotional creatures on the planet, dude. You prep a woman and she has a bad day, what's the first thing she's going to want to do? She's going to want some chocolate. She's going to want some because it makes them feel better. They connect their happiness with things that feel good.
Right.
Because they're emotional creatures. And so it's so hard sometimes. And I got out of coaching women a lot of times because I was babysitting more than I was coaching.
Yeah.
And dude, there's some really good female coaches out there. And all I got to do is say, bless your heart, dude, because you're a better man than me. Because I don't know if I have the patience for it or not. Because
Right.
it's different, Like for me, it's very black and white. Do this. You do this, we'll make this adjustment, whatever, you know what I mean? And I mean, it's not that. I think we've all, like when I was prepping for my show, I traveled to Kentucky for one of my friend's shows, and I binged on the way home. And I was like, what am I going to do? And Matt he texted me, he said, is that how you want to look on stage? And I was like, nope, thanks. That's all I needed. And I felt like trash, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, it goes away. No one's going to get fat over one meal.
Right.
Think and feel, but when you get close and you're like 6 weeks out and you get binge, it's not a good thing either. So,
yeah.
But it kind of throws a monkey wrench into things. But at that point, I was prepping on 4,000 calories a day. Which
Wow.
is crazy. Yeah. So I was so efficient. My body kind of needed it. And he's like, you're lucky you were depleted for so long because your body responded well versus the way it could have been. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
So, what would you say to anybody who's like wants to work out, get in shape, but they're just scared too, man? I see a lot of people at my gym, and they're just you see them one or two times in there. They're obviously overweight or underdeveloped or whatnot. You see them one or two times in there, and then I just feel like they get kind of like, maybe nervous or, they feel like people are looking at them, strange. But, in my eyes, I'm thinking like, dude, congratulations. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. What do you say to the people who, want to, but just are scared.
Would you rather be like, my thing is this, because it goes back to that stoicism thing that I was saying. Like, you can't control what anybody thinks about you. Like, people see me and they see my, sleeves and my muscles, and they're intimidated. And actually, one of my clients that I prepped for a bodybuilding show, he was scared to death of me. He was a soldier in Iraq, and he actually got blown up. His name's Brad. He's awesome, dude. He's one of the coolest guys on the planet. And his story is incredible. But he had some nerve damage from the explosion because he got hit with an IUD. His uncle did.
Wow.
And so he came to me because he knew I'd done a show, and he's like, I want to do a bodybuilding show. And I'm like, okay, well, and it was a natty show. And I said, it's gonna suck, but you're gonna do it. He's like, it's not easy, bro. He's like, that's fine. And so he came, he worked out with me, and it was pretty difficult at times. But he's like, I should have never been scared, because we live in the fears and the anxiety that we have are basically fears lived twice. Because what happens is, because we're fearful, we never do it. And then we continue to live in the circumstance that we're already in. So it's to the point where it's like, what are you more fearful of? Staying where you are and living that existence where you know you're not happy, or going into a gym and actually trying to train and better yourself, and people actually admire that you're there. Because people look at me and they're like, oh my God, that guy's scary. He probably thinks I'm a wuss. Dude, I'm literally thinking, hell yeah, that's a new guy. I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I hope he comes up and talks to me and asks me some questions. I can help him out. Because sometimes I'll go up, and like, for me in the gym, like, I owned a gym for 10 years, so I know, like, my ability to, like, kind of talk to people is a little different. I'm a little skewed on it because, like, when I owned a gym and I was prepping for a bodybuilding show, I had horse blinders on. And everybody would try to talk to me. I'm just like, just leave me alone.
Shut up. Yeah, dude.
just let me train.
Yep.
Let me be happy. And towards the end, they kind of knew, because I would just put my hoodie on and I'd go in Darth Vader mode, and people would just leave me alone. But for me now, I don't want to go up and bother somebody and feel like I'm a know-it-all. Because I still learn stuff literally every day. Literally every day I'm learning something about nutrition or supplements or training. I train so different now than the way I used to when I first started lifting. It's insane. Because I'm a bodybuilder. I train for hypertrophy. I'm not slinging the most weight. It's not always about progressive overload. It's about time under tension, And it's like, my joints at 40 really appreciate it. You know what I mean? And so they definitely appreciate it as I bounce across the pavement, being a motorcycle racer too. I've not been the easiest on my body.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But I try to just tell people, like, be in control of you. You can't control what anyone else thinks. They can think you're the fattest, goofiest slob, and you don't know what the hell you're doing, but guess what? You're not sitting on the couch.
Yep.
You're making steps. And we all have this perception that we're going to be good at something, but think about when you started walking. You sucked at walking. So did I. Everybody did. We all fell down over and over again. We cry and bump our knee and want mommy to pick us up. But what did we do? It didn't adhere us from continuing to try to learn. And then that's the thing that we learn as we're adults. And as children, we become this shameful feeling for trying to learn something new, because we expect to be great at stuff. So just go into it as a kid and be like, I know I'm going to fumble. I know I'm going to fall. I know I'm going to not do it right. But guess what? I'm eventually going to get there. And once they get to walking, then they can start to jog. Then they can run. And then once they do that, they're off to the races. They just don't give themselves enough time. Yep. That's really the biggest thing that most people do. They just don't give themselves enough time. Because if you're around it enough, there's enough good people in the gym to try to help you.
Right.
I honestly believe I would encourage people to go find the biggest, scariest dude at your gym and go ask him for help. And I can
Yep.
I guarantee you it'll probably be the best conversation that you ever had. Because those are the guys, one, that know what they're doing. Two, are more compassionate about people coming in than ever. And three, actually will show you, take time out of their workout to make sure that you're doing it right, so you don't get hurt and discouraged.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the fact.
That is definitely a fact.
Me, dude, I'll spend 15, 20, 30 minutes explaining, doing whatever I can to just help them out. Because I love that people are in there. Especially this time of the year, people are like, oh, the New Year's people. I'm like, hell yeah, the New Year's people.
Yeah.
They're in here trying to change, you know?
Yep.
So it's one of those things where I appreciate it, and I would encourage somebody to find the biggest, scariest looking dude in there. I can guarantee he's probably the nicest guy at the gym.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been great, Matt. What are your plugs? How do people get a hold of you?
You can shoot me a DM on my Facebook. You can go to menendure.com. That's my website. We've got some funnels and stuff that are being built right now to kind of get things going. You can join Endure. It's like a brotherhood of fitness community trying to build back confidence.
Yeah, I think
what it is.
I just joined it today. Yeah.
Yep. And so I'm going to start posting a lot of content there.
Cool.
That's the free group. There's a group coaching. Like I said, it's $29.99 a month. That's your training, set you up on macros, and you get on 2 group coaching calls a week. So,
right.
And there's also a mindset course that comes along with it that I've done that kind of really goes and digs deep, and that's all part 2. So I think it's like 24 lessons that kind of digs deep into the mindset of digging back into your past and working on some of the masculinity stuff. So it is for men. And it's typically men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So, because that's our golden years. It's supposed to be, anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Should be hitting our stride. Yep. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, check that out, menendure.com. I think menendure is the handle on all my social media. So my TikTok, my Instagram, my YouTube, all that. So,
okay.
Menendure is kind of the logo of it, and you should be able to find it pretty much anywhere there. And like I said, one-on-one coaching, if somebody's interested, just shoot me a message. So
okay.
That's the easiest way.
Okay. Good deal, brother. This has been great, man, and I hope everybody who's watching or who does watch this gets some value out of it. Matt definitely knows what he's talking about, and thanks for joining us tonight, man.
I appreciate it very, very much, man. Appreciate it again, and hope you have a kick butt week, buddy.
Yes, sir. You have a good one, brother.
See you guys.